Incremental readings. Let's continue with the myth versus fact in this discourse of SuperMemo. Now, this is an interesting case that we don't need SuperMemo. We don't need incremental reading. Is this a myth or is this a fact? Yeah, I think it's a double whammy. So look at Darwin and Newton, meaning some geniuses in the past, to name some examples. Why modern knowledge overload changes the game? Let's see this in detail. This is very nuanced. What's the claim? That because historical geniuses succeeded without computers or SuperMemo, spaced repetition, incremental reading, modern learners can just as well do without it. Yeah? If there are geniuses who succeeded at this without any help with those methods, why I need those methods? I can be a genius at the same time. Later, because now it's 2020 something, but it's the same thing, right? That's the claim. What's the implication of this claim? That SuperMemo or spaced repetition in general or incremental reading, for the sake of simplicity in this video, I will just say SuperMemo, even if it's the tool, to mention everything. Spaced repetition, incremental reading, and so on. So SuperMemo might be a luxury, not a necessity. Oh, it's good to have, but it's not required. I can be a genius without using it. That's the implication of the claim. Nice. So, both Darwin and Newton, absolutely ahead of their time by centuries, had no laptops, no computers. Why should I need advanced learning software and techniques like SuperMemo? Right? Okay, so now we have the question. Then, what's the reality? Shifting knowledge landscape. Today's scientists must go with massive, rapidly expanding data sets and fields of study. So first, you have a lot more information. It's like history. Just because there's more time that has passed, there's more history that happened, right? So there's more information to know. So just with science, there are more fields. Now there's neuroscience or quantum computing that before didn't exist. So we have more data and more fields of study. And not only that, it is expanding, rapidly expanding. So let's imagine the case that I'm like a god and I remember everything today, that I know everything. Like Google, I'm AI, boom, I know everything. In a few months, I'll have a lack of massive amounts of data already because it expands very quickly. That's one domain. Then is the competitive edge. In fields like science, engineering, medicine, even politics, retaining a wide breadth of knowledge can be decisive for success. Meaning that if you want to succeed, you require a lot of knowledge, or that this breadth of knowledge is like a crucial component. Therefore, you need to acquire all of this knowledge if you want to succeed in those fields. So, computer illiteracy today can stifle a scientist. Similarly, ignoring memory tools can curb one's potential. So, in today's standard, in 2025, let's simplify, the first world, when there's no limiting factor economically, seeing people who are illiterate in computers is very hard to see. It will be old people, elderly, most of the time, right? You will be really surprised that if you don't know anything how to use a computer. Nice. And more or less in the same manner, ignoring memory tools like SuperMemo, incremental and spaced repetition is also hard to believe. Why on earth many people can still not use them or even know they exist? But that's not the point of this video. So then, why past success doesn't disprove present needs? Different eras, different demands. Darwin and Newton lived in slower times with narrower knowledge requirements. Still tough, so still significant. The amount of information was a big deal. It's not something you learn overnight, but it's more manageable. If I don't have any assistance with incremental reading, I just do books, written books, and stuff like that. Very crude. It's still manageable. If I spend years and years of my life, because the quantity is smaller, then the breadth of knowledge is narrower. I can simplify this field, and that's it. So therefore the requirements are not as many as today, because before the era of information. So the modern era, it's overload. The pace of discovery and specialization is unprecedented. Just look at AI. You want to stay on touch with AI. You get obsolete in months. You have to be constantly reading and learning. So making efficient learning is a bigger challenge than ever before, because the information is overload is bigger than before and the skills faster than before. That has outpaced a human. The human cannot keep up with this growth. It's way too much. The solution is not to learn everything, have a huge capacity to learn and memorize and remember everything. No, 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 no. The capacity is navigate to this overload and find what's the higher priority, the most important stuff, and discard what's pollution and noise. So quote, what worked in a simpler era may fall short in information-saturated world. That means that if I now, let's say that we do the same stuff, the same methods, techniques of learning and study that Newton and Darwin did, but today, we won't have the same result. If we live in isolation like in a cave, yes, could be that we rediscover something. Hey, I have rediscovered the Pythagoras theorem on my own, if you know what I mean. But chances are that now is, oh yeah, this has been discovered by someone else already. Oh yeah, this other thing, oh yeah, good to know, but this has been discovered by someone before you already. You know what I mean? Then, how SuperMemo helps. Spaced repetition minimizes the forgetting, minimizes and slows down the forgetting, while optimizing review time. So you spend the least time as possible to minimize the forgetting. Then higher retention keeps crucial knowledge fresh for innovation. It's easy to recall, it's fast to recall, and it's easy to recall, to make the connections in different fields especially. This is especially useful for creativity and problem solving. And has a competitive advantage. The more knowledge you generally retain, so it's accessible, it's in your brain, but you can retrieve it, because if you cannot retrieve it, it's pointless to have it. The more agile you are when new opportunities or challenges arise. More or less what AI cannot do, but the human can, to simplify. So one mental's toolbox grows with every fact retained, expanding your problem-solving repertoire. The more knowledge you know, and the more breadth of knowledge you have, the more likely it is to solve problems. The more easy it will tend to be. It's not guaranteed. It will be a tendency. So live without or thrive with SuperMemo. You can live without SuperMemo. Yes, absolutely. Sure. But that's also true for computers in general or advanced study techniques. Yet they drastically enhance productivity. So like, instead of doing math in pen and paper, the old style, you do math with a spreadsheet or with a calculator if you want something in the middle. Or live to a new level. By systematically reducing forgetting, you free mental energy for deeper thinking and faster progress. So you will still have information overload, for sure, obviously, but you will learn the maximum amount of knowledge you can learn with the maximum quality, with the minimum forgetting, and the maximum applicability. Basically, you win in every single dimension if you were have to use no methods or methods from past centuries. Meaning, if we do the mental exercise, if Darwin and Newton were alive today and they could use those methods, or they could time travel, let's say, and use the software, SuperMemo, back in the day, they would have gone farther away of what they already did. They were already centuries advanced on their time. Imagine with those techniques and methods assisted by computers. Imagine that. Now this gets like camouflage because we live in an era that, oh yeah, there's plenty of data, plenty of AI. So if you already discover something on your own, there's no value in that. Like the Pythagoras theorem I mentioned before. You have to make something new than the one did. Like Piotr Wozniak, for instance, he created space repetition systems and space repetition software, the algorithm and so on. And just 35 or 37 years ago. Wow. Wow. It's this level. So quote, survival, yes, you can manage. But thriving is another story. So you can survive in an era of information overload, yes, but that doesn't mean thriving. If you want to succeed, you need tools to give you an edge, and that is SuperMemo, Incremental Reading. You won't be perfect, obviously, we are humans, but you will have the best outcome possible. You will have a victory in every single domain. Quality, quantity, speed, retrievability, problem solving capacity, any single domain you can think of that we mentioned in this video, you will maximize. Not because of you were born a genius, it's because of the methods and everything we have said before in the other myths. Your capacity to enhance the memory through the representation, memory representation, or forgetting slower. It's not because you are a special human, it's because you are an incremental reader. So conclusions. Past achievements don't deny modern tools. There are many, it's Darwin and Newton's, but there are many geniuses. And also in more humanities domains like literature, like William Shakespeare, or economics, stuff like that. So Darwin or Newton's brilliance doesn't negate the utility of memory optimization today. Just because there are some geniuses that existed before without using these tools doesn't mean that using these tools today are required or almost mandatory nowadays. Expanding knowledge. Modern domains are broader, faster changing, and more competitive. It's harder to become a genius in the sense of society, that society attributes you the label of genius. Meaning, very simple. Just go to the street. Talk to the first person you see on the street. As long as it's healthy, that person is healthy, that person is a lot more intelligent than almost all humanity a few centuries ago. Before, many people didn't even know how to read the language. So only they had the spoken language. Just the basic mathematics, arithmetics, and something of what other geniuses discovered across time that we take for very basic level, very fundamental knowledge. We take this for granted. But some centuries ago, that was like top notch. Only the elite was knowledgeable of that. And you have like a very a very big, wide repertoire of knowledge in many different domains. So just the average Joe is a lot more knowledgeable ever than some centuries ago, when Darwin or Newton time, let's say. Massive. That's why if you want to be labeled as genius, you have to do something even greater than that. It's a lot harder, a lot tougher because the low levels are already super high. So imagine if you want to be higher, higher, and higher. So you have a distance that, oh wow, you are miles away of the commons, therefore we think you're a genius. Goes in that perspective. So there you go. Well, you can succeed without SuperMemo, that's for sure. Adopting it or similar space repetition methods can truly raise your running to a new level. Basically, let's say that I'm maxed out. So because I have used incremental reading in a well manner, I have achieved the victory in every single domain possible within my capacities. That doesn't mean that some other guy, some other person, even doing a suboptimal approach, meaning just win, has victory in a few domains, not not all of them, it will overpower me. It will be more intelligent, more genius than me. Even though it's half-baked, it could have achieved more victories because of the lack of methods. Could be the case. Because in that perspective, then we could say that yes, a person who is just raw, hasn't done any victory at all, in the sense that hasn't maxed out anything, can succeed. Of course, of course. But this person, if he will have done SuperMemo, incremental reading, and so on, he will have done even more than that. You know what I mean? If we compare people versus itself, it means to make my point clear. So there's no reason to limit, to cap yourself today. So then, final thought. Darwin and Newton reached great heights without modern aids. But in today's data-saturated climate, leveraging memory tools can catapult your potential. Because now, if I want to be creative in the age of AI, wow, the requirements are a lot higher. The mathematics I need to master and how many concepts is a lot more. So, more than ever, the capacity to match, let's say, the ancestors and do something more, achieve more knowledge, becomes harder. In the sense that, let's say I'm limited by time. Let's put a random arbitrary unit of 100 today, of units of learning. Cool. Then there's so much stuff to learn that when I learn everything that I'm required to simplify, I will be 40 already, if I do 100 every day. The more time passes, there will be more knowledge, more concepts to learn, to make the connections, all of that I will be even 50. Okay, then I will be even 70, that almost all my time dedicated just to match what my masters have done before. And then when I'm 70, I start with new knowledge. I'm creating something new. I'm simplifying a lot. Then this already happened before. And we reach a point that this outlives human lifespan. Meaning that if I spend all my time, all my life, it's not enough. I haven't had enough time to get all the required knowledge. I will die before that. That's why you need to do, makes a difference if you use spatial repetition and incremental reading. Because of the best methods, and you can accelerate that. You minimize the time required. So instead of 100 points a day, learning points, units, it will be 80. It's actually cheaper. Then I need less review. I minimize this because I do the optimal intervals. Perhaps it's not just 80, now it's 40. Meaning that I have now 60 more units of learning to add every single day. Meaning that I can finish, instead of 150, let's say, something that I will never achieve by biology, I can do it in my 40s. And now in my 40s, I achieve something that without spatial repetition, without SuperMemo, even if I'm a genius in encoding information, I will never achieve that in my life. Because the amount of years is above my lifespan. So imagine this. You can get something, you can catapult to a potential, a human potential that no one else had done before, meaning they haven't had the opportunity to use those tool assisted, to those computer assisted methods. You can do it. Then the question would be philosophical. What is, in the 21st century, what is the definition of genius? Because you already exceeded the potential of a genius. You have more capacity to reason, to solve problems, and to know information. Way more than Newton. Exponentially. By every single domain. By capacity, quantity, speed, retrievability. You will win Darwin or Newton in every single domain. Yet perhaps you don't create anything new. Or what you create becomes outdated in 2 weeks. Because this is how now the AI era is. Therefore, I think perhaps what changed is the definition of genius. That's why if you don't see my point, it's because perhaps you could succeed my point is that you couldn't succeed of everything we have said, but still fail to become a genius because society will not call you a genius. Because the society has changed the definition of genius. But if we come full circle, we don't need SuperMemo. No, still speaking, no, you don't, obviously. But it's more required than ever. And it's only increasing. The more information overload there will be, the more required, the more difference using SuperMemo will make. To the point that if you don't rely on AI, it's only humans. If you don't use techniques like SuperMemo, incremental reading, you don't have any opportunity anymore to create new knowledge. We could achieve a state like that. But this is already philosophical. I hope this myth is harder to transmit. It's harder to communicate. I'm not sure. I did my best. I'm not sure if it's enough. If don't, no worries. Follow the course, the myths, and then after a while come back to it. Especially if you have your own anecdotal evidence, it can change your perspective. Let me know if that is the case. So, for now, that's all for now, and see you incrementally.